Hello, this is Myra Elaine on the Buying Space channel. Today I'm reading from Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 15. Started off on verse 15 last week and realized I hadn't read 14, and 14 ended up being very important. But so is 15. There's danger in putting up security for a stranger's debt. It's safer not to guarantee another's personal debt. This means that you don't co-sign for anyone. If you have to co-sign for someone, there's a reason they need a co-signer. In the past, they haven't been able to pay a debt and they have a bad credit rating. So it's right here in the Bible that if you want peace in your life, if you want to be wise, do not co-sign on any debt for anyone. Don't assume responsibilities that are not yours for another person. Unless you're responsible for them in some moral way. This verse says, though, there's danger in putting up security for a stranger's debt. So we're talking about someone that you're not related to. If you have to co-sign, basically parents take the responsibility for children and sign that they're responsible for everything for that child until they're 18. But into their formative years, you might co-sign on a house for them before they have a credit rating. Depends upon what kind of adult your child ends up being. My child is an adult, but they are an adult child. They have autism. So I will forever be responsible for Marty. There's another person that should be responsible morally for Marty, but is choosing not to be. He has to answer for himself. But in general, for a stranger, you don't co-sign on anything. I look at it as disloyalty to your spouse, and disloyal if you're married, and disloyalty to your family if you co-sign for a stranger, because you're giving the family wealth to a stranger, to someone that's not blood related. What if after you co-sign for that stranger and they falter, which they're likely to do because they needed a co-signer to start with, and then your family does without, your flesh and blood does without, because all of your money is going to pay the debt of a stranger. So Solomon was very wise in including this verse. And as you go through the week and you choose to make sacrifices for other people, think about, is your family taken care of while you're making sacrifices for a stranger? Is your flesh and blood okay? Now, I know that there are family members, there are people out there that have people that are flesh and blood that you feel don't deserve your loyalty. But I would think about that long and hard before I signed anything away, my future income, to somebody that I'm not related to. Honestly would. Of course, I'm in a unique situation. I really can't have friends in my situation because I have an adult child with autism to take care of for the rest of their life. So that limits me on how much I can give to others. And when I give to others, even if I didn't have a person with a disability that I was responsible for, even in that situation, I would consider, is this surplus? God wants us to be charitable too. Being charitable and co-signing on a loan are two different things. If somebody's having hard luck and you want to just give them money or things because you have surplus, your family doesn't need what you're giving them. You don't need what you're giving them. You're giving that out of the kindness of your heart and out of charity. That doesn't obligate you to do that continuously. Here, I'm going to help you out while you have a moment you need help. But that's very different than signing for someone. If you end up helping that person weekly or monthly, and that helps pay a debt that they have that's under their name, that's different. You say to somebody, I'm going to help you out for a moment, or I have this extra stuff over here that, I'll give you because I don't need it. My family doesn't need it. And we have a surplus. That's very different. I'm not saying, and the Bible is not saying, Solomon is not saying here not to be charitable and help strangers. It's coming up on the Festival of Weeks. I forget what week we're in now, but 5 or 6 weeks from now, we'll be in Shavuot. And during Shavuot, the book of Ruth is read. And Ruth went out of her way and was completely loyal to her mother-in-law, who was a widow. And she was a widow, and stayed with her. And so instead of staying in Moab and staying with her family, she was loyal to her. She went above and beyond for her. But that was a co-signing for a stranger. They were now family, even though they were in-laws. It's Moab. It was a custom in Moab and for the Jews that a daughter-in-law or son-in-law is not an in-law, that they are a daughter. You gain a daughter when your son gets married, and vice versa. And I guess in modern times, if your daughter would marry a woman, you would be gaining another daughter too. Or if your son was gay, and he got married to a man, you'd be gaining another son. So, but the thing is, if someone marries into your family, they are part of the family. It's not, or shouldn't be, a temporary thing. Of course, marriage, the state of marriage and how long marriages last nowadays, maybe we can't really think of it that way, but they definitely did in ancient times, in the Bible times. And we should think about it that way today. Maybe if we did think about it that way today, maybe marriages would last longer because people would have more of a sense of belonging in your family. But how you treat your family and those married into your family and the people in your siblings' family is different than how you would treat a stranger. My mother used to have a lot of friends that she would do things for. And I'm like, Mom, that person's going to be gone in a few years. And sure enough, they'd be gone. But I stayed loyal to my mother. I loved how that she was generous in her spirit and heart. And she wanted to help people. And actually at her funeral, this weekend was the anniversary of my mother's death. And my mother's funeral, there was a young man was there that my mother had helped, and it reminded me that at the time I was like, Mom, why are you helping them? You know, you've got things to do with your own family. But he showed up at my mother's funeral and described to me how much my mother helped them during that phase. And she did it just as a phase. I mean, she was still good friends with her before and after they needed her help during that season. And he was just so, I had such a loving memory towards my mother because she'd been so good to them. And we did without a little bit because she was in that season. But looking back, I'm glad she did it. She didn't co-sign on a loan for them, mind you, but she was busy helping them for a season. My father did without a few things during that time. My brother was in California. Or no, but there wasn't anything that I can remember my brother did without. But Marty and I did with a little less during that time because we didn't have Granny. You know, grandmothers can be. But I'm glad she did. Just for the season. I guess that's what we need to remember. Family comes first. But sometimes our family have to do other things for other people. And I didn't understand that at that time. There is supposed to be kindness to strangers, kindness to friends. But your family remains. So I guess in balancing things out, when you make sacrifices for others, remember your family is also making those sacrifices. So how big of a sacrifice should it be? Co-signing, according to Solomon, securing someone else's debt is not wise. It's very complicated, isn't it? But pray to God and work these things out with your family. And you all have a wonderful and blessed day.